Tonight, the federal government's solution to the Wick decision, overriding legislation.
Never been part of our system that the High Court makes the law. It's our system that Parliament makes the law.
And later, Australia's newest animal movie star, a puppy called Napoleon.
Oh, no. I thought this thing was attached to the shore.
Welcome to the program. Lines are already being drawn just a day after the High Court ruled native title can coexist with pastoral leases. Prime Minister John Howard expressed his disappointment that the decision failed to clear up uncertainties, and he's foreshadowed more changes to the Native Title Act and the prospect of new legislation to guarantee farmers' rights to their land. But this suggestion has provoked strong reactions from Aboriginal leaders and the opposition and minor parties in the Senate, who warn that such changes may not get through the upper house. In a moment, I'll speak to Shadow Aboriginal Affairs Minister Daryl Melham, but first, how the Prime Minister, a Premier and an independent read the High Court judgment.
The Keating government told the pastoralists time without number that they didn't have to worry. And now we find, indeed, that there is real doubt and ambiguity. And the only way in which, according to the decision of the High Court, the status of individual pastoral leases can be resolved is not according to some general rule or principle, but on a case-by-case basis.
We don't have certainty as a result of the outcome yesterday. What we have is the High Court fundamentally saying it does and it does not, but if you want to clarify it, go back to the courts. Now, that is going to delay not only the economic development of the country, it also risks the advancement of the social development of the country, particularly between our Indigenous community and non-Indigenous community.
It has created a new ball game, and we need all of us to reflect very carefully as to the consequences of the decision and to recognise that there will need to be understanding and goodwill from all of the people involved so that the remaining significant ambiguities and problems can be intelligently addressed. They do need to be addressed.
The whole question of land ownership and entitlements to the use of land has probably been overturned by this particular decision, but it remains to be seen how it can be mixed in and how we can live with it in general.
The High Court's determination is the last word on the interpretation of the law as it now stands, but it's never been part of our system that the High Court makes the law. It's our system that Parliament makes the law and the High Court declares and interprets it.
The High Court is seeking justice, but it may well have manipulated some precedents.
It hasn't covered the High Court in glory, and it has left the Australian community at the edge of an abyss.
I don't think anybody greets with any enthusiasm the possibility of endless years of protracted and complicated litigation, which is one of the scenarios that some of the people responding to the decision believe might occur, and all of us have a responsibility to ensure that that scenario is not realised.
Well, I suppose I can understand that they need certainty, but nevertheless, as I say, my general view has been in support of native title rights, and we in Australia it may be necessary to become innovative in this particular area.
This is a difficult issue for the entire community, and we have to handle it in a way that's fair to all parties. And it's not a question of taking sides, it's a question of getting a sensible resolution.
Well, Mr Howard's stance on the Wick decision and the suggestion of using legislation to override that decision has been condemned by federal opposition Aboriginal Affairs spokesman Daryl Melham, and he joins me now. John Howard has all but said he's prepared to legislate. Daryl Melham, do you think he will?
Well, I think he's wrong if he does. There's no need for legislation. Yesterday's decision by the High Court was a win-win situation. It was a win for pastoralists, and it was also a win for Aboriginal people. But
that's not what the pastoralists say, of course. They say they can't develop their properties. We've got premiers saying that it's holding up investment in this country.
But that's a political beat-up. I think if anyone has a proper reading of the judgment, there's not one pastoralist that will be thrown off their land. All their titles are certain. There's coexistence. Aboriginals who have hunted, fished, gathered, engaged in ceremonies on that land will be able to do so in the future.
But they're not suggesting they'll be thrown off their land. What they're asking to do is to be able to develop their properties like anybody else.
But they're able to develop that. Justice Gummo says that in his judgment. A majority of the High Court says that. Where there's inconsistency, the pastoralists' rights will prevail. There's no problem with that. And also, the Keating government's Native Title Act guarantees pastoralists certainty. It guarantees them the right to renew their leases. I mean, this is a beat-up, and it's a very sad day when Aboriginal people are being played politics with by a federal government and pastoralists.
Well, you've heard what Brian Harradine has said. Do you think in the end he will try and spike John Howard's guns on this?
Well, I don't think John Howard didn't have the numbers, nor the pastoralists on the High Court yesterday. They don't have the numbers in the Senate. Cooler heads need to prevail. We need to work this through in a consultative fashion with all stakeholders. I mean, the problem with the government is that they haven't been listening, and that's the problem. They've been proceeding on false assumptions. Now, pastoralists' titles are secure. The High Court said that virtually 7-0, that their titles will prevail. And I just think cooler heads need to prevail, Barry. The problem is there's a bit of politics being played here. There's no need for legislation. People just need to stay calm and let's work it through.
But you did say that John Howard hasn't got the numbers in the Senate, but Brian Harradine has been known to change his mind in the past, and Tasmania is not exactly central to this issue.
No, but Brian Harradine is an honourable person. He's consistent and he's principled, and he's been consistent throughout on this. He voted for the original native title legislation that guarantees the titles of the pastoralists and the miners. And I think that the arguments, he's got an open mind, and that's why I think there's a lot of alarm. I mean, they're not in opposition now. John Howard's a Prime Minister who said he'd govern for all of us. It's not up to him to take sides. The Native Title Act was a balanced act for miners, for pastoralists. It gave certainty to every title holder in this country. And that decision yesterday doesn't threaten one title in the whole of Australia.
But it's not perfect, is it? You've said that you're prepared to entertain some amendments.
We're prepared to entertain some amendments that keep the lawyers out of it, that don't make them rich, that enable people at the local level to sit down and reach local regional agreements hand in hand without politicians and without lawyers. I mean, you've got the Cape York Agreement in the far north of Queensland. I mean, that's the sort of stuff that should be happening around Australia.
Well, there's a chance that the whole thing could go to a special Premier's conference early next year. Now, that would put a lot of political pressure on the Prime Minister, wouldn't it? Well,
you know, the Prime Minister's got to be very careful. I mean, the Premiers haven't got a good record on this. Look at Richard Court. He's been knocked over in every federal court decision on the Native Title Act, and the High Court twice has knocked over his lawyer's view of the world. That's why we need to sit back, keep the politics out of this. This is above party politics. There's no need to play politics on this. Okay. We will hold John Howard to his election commitment to respect the Racial Discrimination Act.
OK, we're out of time. Thanks for your time, Darryl.
Thank you.
Over the Christmas festivities, well, once they're over for another year, then Boxing Day for most of us is a time to relax. Unless, of course, you're a crew member on one of the 94 boats competing in the Sydney to Hobart yacht race. This year, a group of Aboriginal sailors, most of whom have never been on a boat until a few months ago, will be participating in a race which has a reputation for being one of the most treacherous in the world. Bridget Donovan reports.
Okay, start rigging up, please. Make sure the head sails are packed up down below with the spinnakers. Well, with the Sydney Hobart, anything can happen in the race. We all know of the windy years and the years where it's actually quite a pleasant race. That's it, kiddo. Conditions are like, we'll then put a spinnaker up. Okay, it's pretty breezy out there today, so...
I was just talking to someone, they've just come in, they said it's a good 30 knots.
30 knots,
yeah. Just coming through the heads.
Having been involved in yachting for a little while and not having seen any Aboriginal people around, thinking that there shouldn't be any reason for that, I thought we'll do something about it.
So Jeremy Pearce, with the help of the New South Wales Department of Sport and Recreation, organised a training program for 20 rookie sailors.
We have a final selection to do. We're now down to 6 young people, and 3 of them will go on and do the Hobart race. And I hope to make that selection very shortly, and it's going to be a difficult task. Ease main off, please. Easy! Come away! Free race, come away!
satisfying for 3 positions, so we're pretty competitive.
Where's that crawler there, Becky? Can you see it? There's a guy in front of the company.
In front of our 50 metres.
Okay.
The 3 best will be chosen, so you just have to try harder next time. And hopefully you'll go.
We had quite a mixed reaction. We had a lot of people who thought it wouldn't happen. We had a lot of people who thought that Aboriginal people wouldn't like the water, that they'd be scared of not being on the land. On one hand. On the other hand, we had a lot of people who thought it was a fantastic idea and that Aboriginal people would have a natural affinity with sailing or in sailing because of their general finesse in sporting in general.
The final 3 will join 11 more experienced sailors on the 50-foot yacht Sidewinder.
I guess in the end there were just little things that sort of shone, and said, okay, well, these are the 3 that are going, and you other 3, we're going to try and get you down to Hobart and come and do the trip back, so they're not going to miss out.
Father of 4, Greg Flanders, made it.
I didn't know what was a port or the stern or the bow or anything, you know, the starboard or anything. You know, all I knew was that I used to love going fishing near the water, you know, and that was about my limits with the water, you know.
It's just got no... Now just look
making me do this.
It's just got no liquor.
Kathy Collingridge is also on the team, along with David Bird.
We didn't know until we were told, and it was very competitive right up until then. All of us here have put in 110% effort, and we hope to continue putting in that effort. It was disappointment, naturally, of course, for the fellows who missed out.
I'm happy for the other 3, of course, but hopefully next year I'll get in.
I hear that your wife isn't very happy, Greg.
She's coming around, mate. She's coming around.
You could say that the world's best ocean racer couldn't prepare themselves enough for doing the Hobart. There will be times or situations where you could become seasick. You know, I think we see some things in their personalities and their characters that will pull them through.
It can be quite dangerous, and these people know that it's possible that they will lose their lives doing this, but we've endeavoured to make sure we've done every single possible thing we can to get these people ready, and we wouldn't be taking people we had any question marks over in terms of their ability to get there. Looking forward to meeting them in the dock there and congratulating them. I think it'll be a really good time. I think we'll have a great time down there.
Bridget Donovan. The resurgence of the Australian film industry hit a peak this year with the international success of both Babe and Shine. And now, these Christmas holidays, another local film will hit the screens, and the expectations are once again very high. Like Shine, it's about a journey of discovery, and like Babe, its central character is an animal, a 10-week-old golden retriever called Napoleon. Carmel O'Keefe has the story.
The crowd cheers as Napoleon enters the basket. Listen to how they yell.
Muffin, get out of there immediately. Jump out now.
Look at me. I'm flying. I'm high in the sky. Uh-oh.
Muffin, jump down from there right now.
Oh.
At first glance, Napoleon looks like a straight kids flick.
This is very cool.
It's got music.
There's a new world out there coming to find me.
Humour. And the cutest hero you can imagine. But this film has set records even before it's hit our cinema screens.
Okay, first positions, and turn over, and action.
Not only is it the first film made here using an all-animal cast, but it's taken longer to make than any other Australian production.
Most films actually take about 10 weeks to shoot. Sometimes if it's a higher budget film, it might go up to 12 weeks or even 15 weeks. Or Babe, I think, was 18 weeks to shoot. We took 26 weeks to shoot.
After all, there is a reason for that old saying about never working with animals. And no less than 64 puppies played the part of Napoleon.
If it was a situation where we wanted the dog to be a little bit fearful, well, then I'd use one of the shy dogs. If I wanted the character to be a lot more explorative, then I'd use one of the bold Napoleons that we had. And in the scene with the echidna, we start sniffing around this echidna that's moving across this stretch of earth, and then it comes to this creek. And I thought, now what's going to happen? And so we just kept the cameras rolling, and the echidna curled into a ball and rolled down. Now, never in my wildest dreams would I have realised that that's what an echidna would do.
I mean, you look cool.
I'm starting to think that every director should make an animal film. What you're forced to do is to break down every piece of action into very small micro units and have a justification for it, which is a process that you don't really use when you're working with actors.
Sure if I help. See? There's your water.
Having confronted the working with animals challenge, Mario decided to break the other don't rule. He asked his own children to be in-house consultants and critics.
We do what was called the shuffle test. If they sat still and looked at the screen, well then we knew it was working. If they were shuffling, then we knew that it wasn't working. And often children can be a little bit polite and sort of not really fully show you what what they're feeling, but show it to your own kids, and they can be quite vicious and say, look, that's terrible. Why did you put that there for, Dad?
Hello? Oh, Dad, how are you going?
What you been up to?
The Andriacchio boys are now helping Dad with his next project, a film that involves both children and animals that will be shot in Brisbane next year.
Did you get my question about skateboards versus rollerblades?
Do you think they should be using the rollerblades or the skateboards? Skateboards.
Oh, no. I thought this thing was attached to the shore. Oh, why do I always end up in the water?
But for the moment, Mario's main concern is how other kids and adults will react to Napoleon.
Now, there are a number of things that are relevant to adults in this. What is out there, and what do I want to be? Who am I? Those are questions that I believe start to confront children at a very early age and continue with us for all of our lives.
And he's bracing himself for that inevitable comparison to that movie about that pig.
I want my mom.
Good heavens, who are you?
Babe.
The very interesting thing is that we actually started this film before Babe. We were well into pre-production, and I think we even started shooting before Babe started shooting. But Babe wasn't the first animal film of its type. I mean, there have been other animal films that have been made before Babe. And indeed, the whole thing of using animals as characters within story goes right back to the ancient Greeks. I mean, it goes back to the Aesop's fables. And indeed, that's the approach, and that's the comparison that I'll hope people make with this.
The humans behind Napoleon are banking on the fact that if the scenery and the characterisations won't get you in, the story will.
How do little kangaroos stand this?
Sorry, Possum.
Rather than trying to say Napoleon is a movie with a message, I would hope that people would regard it as a movie with a heart. There's this little character, Napoleon, who wants to go out and conquer the world. He wants to go out into the wilderness to find the wild dogs, only to find that the wild dogs are within him.
Carmel O'Keefe with that report. But the bad news this Christmas is that the national road toll has already exceeded the count for the whole of the Christmas New Year period last year. Already, 28 have died around the country, and 11 of those were killed in just one state, Queensland. A result described by that state's Transport Minister as sickening. Joining me from Brisbane now is Superintendent Mike Hannigan. The nation is focused on Queensland this year because of the shocking start you've had up there this year. In your mind, what do you think caused that?
A lot of the accidents were caused by carelessness, by speed, excessive speed, and of course alcohol has played a significant part also.
As I understand it, though, a striking feature of the accidents in Queensland have been the number of single vehicle accidents.
That's certainly true. 6 of the fatality accidents that we've had have been single vehicle accidents, and most of those accidents could have been avoided if those drivers had paid heed to the normal traffic rules.
So again, that's an indication that speed is a major factor.
Speed has been a contributing factor. Some of the accidents, there's been a total disregard for the common rules of survival on the road network. Some people are doing wheel stands on motorbikes. Other people were driving motorcycles late at night without helmets, unlicensed, no lights on the bikes, and they collided head-on and both persons were killed.
Well, on the question of alcohol, I don't know how the booze buses are going in Queensland, but figures I saw in Victoria suggest that for every 400 drivers tested, one is charged, and yet just the other day in Wodonga in country Victoria, they tested 62 drivers and 6 were charged. Now that's a remarkably high figure. It does suggest there's a special problem at Christmas.
There certainly is. A lot of people enjoy Christmas cheer over the Christmas period. They tend to overindulge and they don't really think what they're doing. After they have a couple of drinks, they tend to they don't give a damn. And I would urge people out there that are using the road network on this Christmas period, if they're going to drink, make plans for other people to drive or take a taxi home.
Well, I guess the most effective deterrent that we've seen over the years, and more police on the road, is that the case this year?
Yes, there's a high visible presence of police right throughout Australia, especially in Queensland. We've got a maximum effort mounted for the Christmas period. Unfortunately, the results that have occurred so far have occurred in remote areas where we wouldn't normally be. But this year, we're certainly mounting a maximum effort. As you can see now, we're out on the road network testing drivers out there, so people need to be aware that if they're going to drink and drive, they're going to run into us out there, and they certainly won't be driving after that.
OK, Mike Hannigan, all the best for the rest of the holidays.
Thank you very much.
And now to shopping. And for months now, retailers have been battling poor sales figures in the hope that Christmas would bail them out. Desperate to cash in on last-minute Christmas shoppers, Melbourne's massive Chadstone shopping centre shut just a couple of hours ago after 36 hours of solid trading without a break. Deregulation in Victoria meant retailers could trade all night if they wanted to, and many of them did. But was it enough to pump up that bottom line after a lean year? To find out, I spoke to Chadstone shopping centre manager Kim Pepe. Kim, give me a sense of what it was like out there at midnight last night.
The centre last night at midnight, Barry, was very busy. We had a lot of customers. Some were just starting their Christmas shopping, some were just finishing it, some were just here for the atmosphere and the event. The retailers were all having a great time. They were very much in party mode, really enjoying the event. And age group was very broad. We had a lot of shift workers coming in doing their shopping, a lot of hospitality workers coming in, and generally just a lot of fun here in the centre. Very busy crowd.
Were those big numbers still there in the early hours of the morning?
Yes, they were. Fairly much up until about 3 a.m, which it started to quieten down for a little while then. But certainly up until 3 a.m, it was very busy.
Because I'm told that up until then, some people, in fact, were caught in traffic jams at 1 and 2 o'clock in the morning.
Yes, that's correct. It did take a little longer than it normally would to park at Chadstone. However, I think people had a little bit more time. They didn't have the time pressures, so they were quite happy. And I think we've been doing this for 5 years now, so a lot of the customers know to expect a little wait out in the car park.
And you're able to say what items seem to be the greatest in terms of demand?
Certainly, it's a very wide variety this year. Coffee, espresso, cappuccino making machines have been a very popular item. Mobile telephones have been big. Books, toys, the traditional giftware has been very popular. Cosmetics are always a popular gift item. It really does vary. So even pets, even the pet store has been very busy. So across all our stores.
So you're obviously pleased with the last-minute splurge, but is that really a result of the deregulation, or do you think consumers felt better about things because of lower interest rates and factors like that?
I think it would be a combination of both those factors, but certainly the last-minute rush. I think we're all getting busier in our lifestyles now, so the deregulation trading hours have really given them added convenience, which everybody really desires.
Well, they're here to stay. Do you think, though, it will take Christmas splurges to warrant this sort of thing, or can you envisage the stores staying open at times like Easter, for example?
It's a little bit early to tell, but certainly seasonal times, heavy times where there is that demand, consumer demand, it's possible that we will extend our trading hours, but we certainly don't plan long-term at this particular point in time to trade 24 hours, although our supermarkets will be, but the shopping centre in general will just be trading the 7-day environment.
Well, it must be a relief when those doors finally shut after 36 hours of non-stop trading.
A relief and a letdown in some ways. I think everybody gets sort of hyped up and ready for it. But no, when the doors close, we prepare for stock take sale for Boxing Day, so we go into stock take sale mode then.
OK, thanks for your time. Enjoy your break.
Thank you, Barry.
Kim Pepe. Well, the best place to see Christmas decorations was traditionally department store Christmas windows. But now there's stiff competition emerging in front yards all around Australia. Literally thousands have been flocking to the festive streets in suburbs and towns, and it's becoming such a popular part of the Christmas ritual, there are even traffic jams. Philippa McDonald reports.
Oh, we're going to give out about a couple of thousand sweets for the kiddies. The adults will push and shove as usual.
At 72, Tom Fitzgerald is doing what he's been doing at this time of year for the last almost 30 years.
But we have a lot of fun, and it's a whole family affair.
In the Melbourne suburb of Ivanhoe, Santa comes early. And at the Rossetti home, no energy is spared for Christmas. Before Santa appears in the front garden, their son Rocky warms up the crowd.
I don't think I'd exaggerate if I said there was at least, I think I'd underestimate if I said there was 50,000 went past here last night.
For sure.
By the time Santa arrives, the traffic is bumper to bumper. To guard against chaos, it's no stopping or you're booked in the boulevard where about 40 homes give new meaning to decking out your house for Christmas.
You get worried about, whoa.
Oh,
we're going out.
We've blown out.
So what's happened now?
We're bombed down, I suppose.
This has only happened a couple of times. About 3 times, hasn't it? Sometimes we overload on the electricity and we have to get the council to come and turn us back on.
We're very happy about that.
With the lights on, neighbours are left with little privacy. And here, one person who didn't want to participate was given some very pointed advice.
And the president told him to give the baby a couple of aspirins and he'd go to sleep. But that was the only complaint that we've ever had.
But most agree it's an annual spectacle not to be missed.
Very good.
Well, this is a very, very special part of the world. We see lots of little children here every night, their parents, oldies, youngies, they're all here.
For the last 5 years, the relatively new suburb of Chipping Norton in Sydney's southwest has been carving out a reputation as the place to see Christmas.
People have tried to keep up with the Joneses all the way around the street, so it's just sort of escalated with one little string of lights for us and then more and more each year.
The Jones across the road may get Santa on their roof, but the Eatons pull a crowd with their puppet shows.
Well, I just sit out the front, enjoy the night and watch puppet show and just hang around.
It appears just having a Christmas tree or some holly on your front door is no longer enough in a growing number of Australian neighbourhoods.
What keeps you going year after year?
Children. The children love it. They don't have a big kid anyway. But no, the children love it. And I just love to see their faces and all the families that come past and just all the children happy.
And that's our contribution to a Merry Christmas and our program for tonight. We'll be back on Boxing Day when we ask the question, whatever happened to the 8-hour day? Until then, have a great Christmas and good night.